Hi, Tom Allsopp here from tpatennis.com. I just started working with this player. His name's Chris. He's fantastic strokes, great game. The only shot he's really struggling with is his forehand. Now, he came to me saying that he's mishitting a lot and it's hitting the bottom of his frame. And the first thing I did was to ask him whether he thought, just after watching him for a while, I asked him whether he thought he'd hit with a bent arm or a straight arm at the point of contact. Now, he thought that he hit with a bent arm, and if you're watching closely there, really it's straight at the point of contact, but it's also straight a long time before that, and that's causing a few problems. So it's pretty useful, it's very useful to understand how your shot works. You can always video yourself hitting a good shot and then go look at that shot and understand what it is that you're doing on the shots that you like, and learn from the successful ones. Now, moving on to this here, the problem is that as he straightens his arm out here, so I'd say his arm is straight. I'm not sure exactly when it got straight, but let's say he locks it out there. He's doing it while the strings are still facing the floor. So this is a bit of a problem, because knowing that he's mishitting some forehands, this is not helping. It's going to be very challenging for him to now turn the racket to face the ball, especially when he's playing really high level junior tennis or adult tennis, when the ball is getting whacked at him really hard. Having the strings face the floor for so long, especially as the ball is so close to him, that's going to make it difficult for him to square up the racket head on time. Now, the other thing is that locking out the arm in general is okay. Roger Federer does it from time to time, but he has a little bit of fluidity, not fluidity, but I want to say kind of like elastic energy. I don't even know if that's even a thing, but it's kind of snappy, it's whippy. He's laying that arm back and the wrist back, and then it releases into the shot. Here it just looks like he's straightened the arm out, he's locked everything. The wrist hasn't really laid back too much, so it's not really going to release into the shot. It's just stiff. And you can see that as it comes through, it's quite stiff. He's not really generating much racket speed. And as he comes through the shot, he's struggling to turn the forearm over just because he's hit the shot with a locked arm. Now, there's nothing wrong with a straight arm forehand. Obviously, Roger Federer and Nadal do it really well. However, Federer will hit many forehands with a bent arm. So rather than showing him how to hit the Federer forehand with a straight arm, I'm encouraging him to practice hitting all forehands with a bent arm, because worst case scenario, you're going to need that shot. Roger Federer, when he's returning a big serve, is going to need to bend his arm a little bit to absorb the impact. And also, if you don't line the shot up that well, you need the maneuverability in your forearm to be able to make subtle adjustments. If that arm is locked, it could be a bit of a problem. So let's take a look at Roger Federer's forehand, and what you will see is his strings are facing the floor, but as is here, the arm is still bent, and as he starts to swing towards the ball there, which is a pretty obvious move, I'm not convinced his arm straightens fully here and locks out. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it's a little bit more bent. I think in general, though, this is not rigid. It's slightly bent. But anyway, let's say it's straight. It's happening as he's swinging towards the shot. It's happening in a very short space of time, and the strings are no longer facing the floor, and the wrist is going to lay back. So as he, let's just move that back slightly and let it run. You can see how fluid of a motion it is, where it lays back and then quickly releases into the shot. Let's just take a look at one more video on this subject, because I find it quite interesting and pretty important. So here, and I'm sorry it's not a little bit clearer, but I think we can see here that his arm is not fully straight. So it's not locked out, it's not going to be stiff. His wrist does lay back there, but at the point of contact, again, it's not stiff, it's not locked. Now if we go through to the next shot, this one is going to hit it a little bit harder, and the way he hits a forehand when he's really attacking it, that arm does straighten and the wrist really lays back, and it's going to release into the shot. So I don't see that from Chris, where as the arm straightens, the wrist lays back and it, you know, really releases and creates a lot of racket speed. I'm not seeing that. But we're going to forget about that after this video. We're just going to move on to this shot here, where again his arm is bent and it's not rigid. So Roger Federer's hitting a lot of shots with a slightly bent arm. So as I said earlier, whether you want to hit it with a straight arm or not, you need to have the ability to hit forehands with a slightly bent arm, so that you can be comfortable, you can make some adjustments, and you can also absorb the impact of a really big shot. If someone's hitting 120-mile-an-hour serve at you, having that arm a little bit more bent is going to be a little more stable. So getting back to Chris, what I had him do was to stand on the service line and hit swing volleys while I was feeding the ball to him pretty quick. Now, in my experience, what happens there is you have to be quite fluid, because there's not enough time to just really lock things out. Everything's happening very quick, and you have to make sure that the strings face the ball. And as you watch this here, you will see that he doesn't have a lot of time. He's not trying to overswing, and in this position here, his strings start to face the ball a little bit more, not face the court, and just to allow him the ability to time that shot. So arm is slightly bent, strings don't face the floor quite so much, bent arm on contact. And the follow through, I'd like to see the racket go over the ball a little bit more to where the racket's at this angle, but at this moment in time, this is not really that important. So if we watch the last couple in regular speed, I think this is a pretty good adjustment there. So the swing volley exercise worked to a point. It got him to square up the racket head. It got him to not have his arm quite as rigid. But then when he went back to the baseline, he couldn't really create those same sensations. There was nothing really for him to tap into. So he just reverted back to his old stroke of being a little bit stiff and having that arm straight. So what I wanted to do is to create those sensations. So I had him throw the ball up for himself and just try and slap the shot. Like really slap it. Be like a Kyrgios or Jack Sock, where you lead with the elbow and then you just slap the ball. And this is what we ended up with. Good. Just do a nice gentle slap. You don't have to throw the elbow into it too much. So if we analyze this, I think we can see a really technically sound stroke. But the interesting thing was that he thought he was doing crazy stuff. He thought he was going to look at the video and see himself looking like Jack Sock. But really it just ended up looking very solid and smooth. Now here we've got the legs are going to start the whole movement. Then the hips are going to turn. Then the shoulders are going to turn. And unlike his other forehand, the elbow is now going to lead the way a little bit, followed by the wrist laying back in this 90-degree angle, and that's going to help him to get the contact point comfortable with the bent arm, but also turn over that forearm, which he was never really able to do before. So that to me is a very technically sound stroke. The reason it's very important to teach in a way, or to try and learn in a way where you're trying to create new sensations, is because you don't have to look for anyone else to say, oh no, your racket was here, or your body was there, or this wasn't happening. You are creating these sensations that will 100% impact your technique. They always will. Because if anyone out there says, all right, I'm going to hit a solid forehand where I'm tight and rigid, or I'm going to hit a loose forehand where I'm relaxed, those sensations that you are trying to create will instantly impact your technique, and you will be able to try to tap into those sensations, try and recreate those sensations whenever you're hitting a ball. So you will be more in control of your technique by trying to create these different sensations. You will be able to influence your technique a lot better by going down this path of trying to have the correct sensation for the shot that you're trying to achieve.